A really nice game against Drake on Saturday. Drake has played well. They've got a good team. Obviously, their record is really good, and they've played well in their conference games. And Velpo was good in that game. They were really good in the last 10 to 12 minutes of that game. So they're coming off a good one there. A couple games earlier, they won at Evansville, and I think all of us are well aware of what it's like to go on the road and try to sneak one out. So a win at Evansville on the road, and then in their last one against Drake, who, like I said, Drake's got a good team again, and they Velpo put a great run together to finish that game off, and so they've played well. With that, I would take your questions. Yeah, I'll just open it up.
How different are they this year without having those two big 7-footers? Are they playing different?
Yeah, yes, and they look a lot different without that size inside. And they are different. They don't throw it. They throw it to the block to different guys. Last year they would get those 7-footers some touches, and they had a presence with the size of both of those guys. And so what they were running was a little bit different. How they approached things was different. Those guys at those positions now, at that center position, are guys that are skilled. Guys that are shooting 3-point shots for them, guys that handle the basketball. McMillan's big and strong, but even so, he's comfortable shooting 3-point shots, and he didn't have to deal with that last year with the two 7-footers. They were not going to shoot the ball from the 3-point line. And then they've played Kaiser at the center position as well. And when they play Kaiser at the center position, they're really playing five guards. Kaiser would be more of a forward, I guess, but he's skilled. He handles the ball. He passes it well. He made 2 important threes in the last 5 or 6 minutes against Drake. So just a very different look than a year ago when they had the two 7-footers. And this year they're running a lot of 5-man motion, which is something that they didn't do a year ago. So that's a different look as well.
After the performance you guys had on Saturday, are you kind of at a place with this offense where it might be fair to not be calling it new anymore? It's kind of just your offense now, especially given the way that the guys have been executing it?
Yeah, and I'd say, Cole, we probably hit that even a year ago at the end of the year. So the last month in the Valley tournament, we found some of that where guys got pretty comfortable with things we were doing the last month of the season last year. We certainly weren't doing in the first month. Even in December and January, some of the reads that we were making, the confidence the guys had in each other, the confidence that they had in the offense, what to look for, the understanding of why we were doing certain things or why we make this read depending on how we're being defended. We saw some of that in the last maybe 3 weeks is closer, and then heading into St. Louis. We were a much better offensive team during that period of time than we were for the first 2 to 3 months, and because we've got we've been healthy for the most part, and the guys are second year in the system. I think that they've got a pretty good confidence in it right now.
To kind of use like a college term, you guys are kind of maybe instead of 101 of the offense, you're at 202 now. You're at the 200 level, maybe 300 level of the offense.
Yeah, it's certainly moving. It's moved that way already, and I just think a big part of that. It's always hard to put a number on experience, and this team has got more experience. It's got a good level of experience, and that experience is not only what we see on the game floor, but in the practice setting. And I'll go to Luke McDonald, who we've talked about a little bit at different times in his role this year compared to what his role last year. But his impact at practice, his experience with our offense, the way in which he ran our offense last year, like even though he's on the scout team, he's still helping Fife, JD, James. He's still in. He's in their ear every day about what to look for, and so the experience isn't just with AJ and with Trey, guys that are in their second year, or having Ty and Austin healthy right now when they weren't a year ago, or Spencer and Isaiah, and JD, the guys that are seniors that are playing at a higher level than they played a year ago. It extends to the practice floor, and a guy like Luke, who isn't playing right now on game night, but is having a tremendous impact on how we're running our offense and the growth that we're seeing from other players. we're getting that at practice from a guy like Luke as well because of his experience last year.
Coach, when you look at the resume your team's put together to this point in the season, obviously you're in the picture for NCAA at-large type stuff, and
Yep.
with the adjustment the committee made last year going from the RPI to the net, some of the things you can control are obviously the outcome of the game, but then they also look at scoring margin,
Right.
and, net efficiency, offense and defense. Has that changed your approach to games? Like, for example, Missouri State, you're up big, and you have AJ, Trey, Isaiah playing large minutes. Are you trying to maintain that level of efficiency and score margin where maybe you might not have done that in the past at RPI?
Yeah, it's a great question and a great point. We talked about it in the office just a little bit with one of my assistants. How do you balance that a little bit with getting guys some experience? The three freshmen, not playing. James playing a little bit, but in a game that got to 30, giving those guys a few minutes to get them some experience. The most important thing, the thing that's on the front of my mind when we're playing is having success in that game or having success in that possession or stretch of possessions. So then secondary to that is getting some guys experience so that we can continue to grow our team. And then third on that list would be the net ranking, the KenPom rating with the efficiency numbers on the offensive end, the defensive end. That's the order that I think about them. And now I've had to think about it much differently over the last year plus because of the net ranking. And maybe I've had to think about it a lot more. I still, you want to finish things. If you do have a lead, you want to finish it. We scored 7 points in the last 9 minutes, I believe. I made a note when I was watching the film that, man, we played great. We had a terrific game on Saturday. And we didn't do anything different. But at the end of the day, we scored 7 points. I would have rather scored 20 points, and not for any other reason than we were really playing well, and we were still getting some pretty good possessions. Would have rather scored 20 for the net ranking and for KenPom and for our efficiency numbers, because when given the opportunity, you do need to do that. If you pick up a couple of spots in those rankings because you've finished a game off, whether you're up by 20, you're up by 10, you're tied, or you're down by 10, or you're down by 20. Like any situation, if there's an opportunity to finish it off with some good possessions because of what the NCAA has told us with the net ranking, that needs to be a little bit of or a part of what you're thinking about. I don't necessarily like that, but those are the rules we're playing by right now when it comes to the at-large stuff.
And when you look at it, you don't have any quad one games, on the rest of your schedule. So you feel like in game you almost have to make some of those statements to, compete with some of these other schools that could have a bunch of quad one teams that are playing over the next, 10, 15 games.
Yeah, it's the reality that we're living in right now, and again, as I've thought about it, and maybe it's something that I need to rearrange the order of it, Nick. But when I think about it, and when we go into the game and when we're playing the games, number one is, how are we playing, and what do we need to do? What do we need to do with what we're running with substitutions to keep playing well? And then two, can we get some experiences for some younger guys to keep growing as a team? And then third is, all right, if there's an opportunity, no matter what the score is, ahead, behind, to finish off a game and increase our efficiency numbers, you have to be thinking about that.
It would seem that off of that, late February, you're playing a road game in conference. You're fortunate enough to be in a similar situation you're in now. That maybe that calculus could change a little bit, and 3 could overtake 2, potentially, whether it's you or any other coach in this similar position. Evaluating at that point that maybe keeping the starter in that situation would be more important than developing more experience.
Yeah, and it again, Cole, that could be, but it's on my list. It's third, guys, and it there's the most important thing is what we talk about all the time. We got practice at 3:30 today. The guys were in the weight room at 8 this morning and talking to guys about getting in it. That's the most important thing. And that even with the change to the net ranking and now the involvement of the efficiency of your offense, the efficiency of your defense, how those numbers play, what your KenPom number looks like, what the net ranking looks like, that's real stuff. Because at the end of it all, that goes a long ways to determining, if you are on that cut line, to determining if you would get net large or not get net large. So it's legit. Now, it's not the most important thing going on. Right? The most important thing that's going on is what we do at practice today, and and our guys understand that because that's what they hear every day. But it's a great question, Nick, and it's a reality of college basketball right now. That not only are you working on what your practices are like every day, and is your team ready to play, and going out there and trying to put your best foot forward and play as good as you can. But now you got to think about, okay, if there's an opportunity to improve our ratings a little bit, you almost got to try to do that too. Especially given our situation, and I don't like that. But I also don't have any control over it. So we're not going to approach things any differently because of, if it was 10 years ago and we had that same game with Missouri State, in a game that we're playing really well, or maybe, guys, I'd go back to, we had a game at Drake in 2015 when Dion and Marv and Seth, those guys were seniors. We were down, I believe we were down 2 at halftime. We came out in the second half and went on some sort of 30-2 run of sorts, or 32-4, 30-2. It was a crazy run. And I didn't sub one time. And so it was like a 34-32 at halftime, and then it was like 62-36. And there's 8 minutes left, and I didn't sub once. Now, the timing might be off a little, or the score might a little bit, guys, but we were playing so well that I didn't want to interrupt it. And so at that time, there was no net ranking, right? The KenPom stuff, that wasn't part of the equation, and I handled it the same way I handled the Missouri State game. And maybe that helps you a little bit in terms of my thinking. It is the reality of where we're at, but the most important thing to me is how we're playing. And what is that group of guys doing? And we were playing so well against Missouri State, I just didn't want to interrupt it. And on that team in 2015, guys, Wes Washman's on the bench, Paul Jesperson's on the bench. Those guys are older guys, and all conference, with Wes the next year. And I didn't put them in the game because we were playing so well. That unit was playing so well. So that's still my first priority.
So if you got a group of 5 that's rolling, you're just going to keep that's kind of been.
Yeah, if we're rolling like that, right? And because you don't have that happen that often, especially on the road. Like the other day on the road at Drake and that one, and the game's basically tied at half, and then we go on a crazy 30-2 or 30-4 type run. It doesn't happen that often. And when it's going that well, like I said, I don't want to interrupt it. The goal is to play as well as you can during that 40 minutes. And now if there's a way to impact that efficiency numbers, you do have to think about it a little bit, but I guess I don't. I don't think about it much while the 40 minutes is going on. Maybe it's something that I need to, but man, I just care about how we're playing.
How's Spencer feeling after playing?
He was good. Yeah, he was good after the game. He was good when we got home. So he's getting there. I would guess him somewhere between 90 and 95% right now, if I had to guess. No.
What are your thoughts on when you play a team that's maybe a little smaller like Valpo? Do you go to the more, or is Justin gotten to the point where, okay, we're going to make the other team kind of adjust to what he's doing out there?
Yeah, I think James has moved his way up the ladder a little bit, and he's played a few minutes here in the last 2 games. So so we'll see, how that plays out, because they are, against Missouri State with Prim coming off the bench, as we saw, where it's going to be that physical. Against Bradley with Koch Barr and the 7-footer coming off the bench, right? Those matchups. This one, it's much more done on the perimeter. A lot of 5-man motion, a lot of stuff out on the perimeter. and may fit James just a little bit better. So we'll see how that plays out. Both those guys are very comfortable playing either one of those guys, playing both those guys, James and JD right now. Anybody else? All right, thanks.